You live with the awareness that anything can happen in this world.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we'll be looking at 50 of the darkest moments in the history of television. We will not be including live disasters like 9/11 or the Challenger explosion.
Robert Crane says when he was a teenager, his father admitted he had a secret life.
Christine Chubik.
TV30 presents what is believed to be a television first.
A television news reporter from Florida, Christine Chubik worked for Sarasota's WXLT-TV, focusing mainly on her weekly segment, Suncoast Digest. While a strong worker, Chubik was not popular and reportedly struggled with depression, loneliness, and intense feelings of isolation. It all led to the tragic events of July 15, 1974. Chubik was airing a segment of Suncoast Digest when she suddenly declared that she would be dying on live television. She then produced a gun from behind the desk and did just that. Chubik became the first person to take their own life on live TV, and the footage has become one of the most mythical pieces of lost media.
I'm okay. You're okay. Repeat it. Say it.
Anna Shannon.
Your mother was working outside the home.
Yes, she worked night shifts.
And he was home at that time.
Yes.
Take me through the moment, the first time that you have a recollection that something here this isn't right. I'm uncomfortable.
Here Comes Honey Boo Boo was the laughingstock of television in the early 2010s, but it was hiding an unbelievably dark and twisted secret. Anna Shannon, nicknamed Chickadee, was the eldest Shannon girl, born when matriarch June was just 15 years old. Unfortunately, Anna had a tragic childhood as she was repeatedly assaulted by June's then-boyfriend, Mark McDaniel. After some time apart, June allegedly began dating McDaniel again in 2014, despite his sordid history with her eldest daughter. And if that wasn't bad enough, June also stole thousands of dollars out of Anna's trust fund, leaving her virtually penniless. But the tragedy doesn't stop there, as Anna was diagnosed with terminal cancer in 2023 and died later that year, aged just 29.
Cardwell is survived by her mother, sisters, partner, and 2 daughters, Caitlin and Kylie. Anna Marie Chickadee Cardwell was 29 years old.
Danny Masterson.
Masterson learning his fate just moments ago here at LA Superior Court.
It's pretty hard going back to that 70s show knowing what we do now. Hyde was one of the show's breakout characters, played to laid-back, stonerific perfection by a young Danny Masterson. But it was also around this time that Masterson began assaulting multiple women, all of whom, like Masterson, were Scientologists. The LAPD began investigating Masterson in 2017 after several women came forward with allegations of sexual assault, the long delay attributed to continued interference from the Church of Scientology. In May 2023, Masterson was convicted on 2 counts and sentenced to 30 years to life in prison.
The church has said the testimony and descriptions of Scientology beliefs during the Masterson trial were, quote, uniformly false. Masterson did not testify at his own trial. His lawyers also called no witnesses. The defense had argued all along that these acts were consensual.
The Chris Benoit Memorial.
For what anybody wants to say, if he had any problems, he could have taken care of them in those times. He could have asked for help. If he chooses not to ask, there's nobody else can help him.
The WWE committed the blunder of a lifetime when they accidentally aired a touching memorial for a wife and child killer. On June 25, 2007, it was announced that popular wrestler Chris Benoit, his wife Nancy, and their son Daniel had all died, seemingly under mysterious circumstances. The WWE then canceled Monday Night Raw and aired a 3-hour tribute to Benoit. But that very night, details began to emerge that something more sinister had occurred, and police soon announced that Benoit had murdered both his wife and child before taking his own life. The WWE was deeply embarrassed and publicly denounced his actions before scrubbing all mentions of Benoit from the organization.
You know, the sheriff's office is saying that the instruments of death were located inside the house, and the DA has said that once the details come out, it'll prove to be very bizarre. Those were his words.
The Stephen Collins revelations.
Bombshell confession straight from the headlines. That famous TV dad, actor Stephen Collins, coming forward for the first time. Why now?
One of the WB's most successful shows, and its longest running, Seventh Heaven was a part religious, part family drama about Protestant minister Eric Camden and his 7 children. Eric was played by Stephen Collins and was quite the popular character, renowned as an idealized father figure with a strong emphasis on things like ethics, religion, and compassion. But in 2014, news broke that Collins had engaged in inappropriate sexual conduct with 3 underage girls, with the scandalous events dating back decades. No criminal charges were filed, but the stark contrast between Collins' real-life actions and the values he preached on screen made the revelations especially jarring, and his career came to a screeching halt overnight.
The first incident was in 1973. You were 25 years old. How old was the victim?
Red Fox dies on set.
And I suppose now you're going to tell me that you're not superstitious. I'm not. That's something you made up in your mind. I'm not superstitious. Oh, no!
Real name John Sanford, Red Fox was a successful stand-up comedian before landing the role of Fred Sanford on the seminal NBC comedy Sanford and Son. By 1991, Sanford and Son was long over, and Fox was in his late 60s starring in a short-lived sitcom called The Royal Family. On October 11th, Fox was rehearsing a scene when he suddenly collapsed on set. Unfortunately, no one reacted at first. Ironically, the character of Fred Sanford was known for faking heart attacks, so his co-workers believed that Fox was just doing an old bit. Unfortunately, the heart attack was very real, and Fox was pronounced dead just a few hours later.
Oh! I think I'm having a heart attack. You hear that, Elizabeth? I'm coming to join you, honey.
Northern Callaway.
In your neighborhood, say, who are the people in your neighborhood? The people that you meet each day.
Actor Northern Callaway had a great job, appearing in over 1,200 episodes of Sesame Street. He played David Robinson, one of the few human characters on the show, for nearly 20 years between 1971 and 1989. However, intense trouble appeared in 1980 when Callaway experienced a troubling episode. On September 19th, he severely beat a woman, vandalized numerous properties, and was witnessed pouring herbicide on himself. Co-workers also noticed a drastic change in Callaway's personality, including increased agitation and erratic behavior, and began distancing themselves from him. He was eventually fired from the show after biting a music coordinator and was placed in a mental institution, where he died of exhaustive psychosis at the age of 41.
They're the people that you meet
when you're walking down the street.
They're the people that you meet each day.
Matthew Perry.
This week, federal investigators arrested 5 people in connection with Perry's death. 2 doctors, a live-in personal assistant, an acquaintance, and a drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, who provided Perry with the drug after doctors limited his treatment.
Watching Friends can be difficult, knowing what we do now about the personal struggles of Matthew Perry. Perry struggled with substance use disorder throughout much of his life, but his problems got quite severe in the late 90s and early 2000s. With recurring stints in rehab and severe drug and alcohol intake. His problems are manifested throughout Friends, as Perry's weight fluctuates wildly between seasons, and he often has a puffy or sunken face, both of which are indicative of his disorder. Perry himself claimed that there were entire years of working on Friends that he could not remember. Unfortunately, he struggled to the very end of his life, and he drowned after using ketamine in 2023.
So should ketamine be demonized?
It's a good question. I think my take home for patients really is that if you are using ketamine, you want to make sure that you're using it in a strictly supervised medical professional setting.
Michael J. Fox hides his Parkinson's.
The most paranoid fantasy I could think of would not have prepared me for the 2 words the neurologist bludgeoned me with that day. Parkinson's disease.
The legendary Michael J. Fox had the very unfortunate distinction of being diagnosed with Parkinson's in 1991 when he was just 29 years old. However, he didn't publicly reveal his diagnosis until 1998 when he was starring in the ABC sitcom Spin City. In his documentary Still, Fox revealed that he used various tricks on set to mask his symptoms, like leaning against desks and doors, continuously holding props, or putting his hands in his pockets. At the time, viewers thought this was just the fidgety nature of the character. But now that we know the truth and can spot the signs, the situation becomes a whole lot more depressing.
Fred, Joe, pleasure to see you guys, as always. You know, I was just thinking. And still, no one outside of my family knew.
The Different Strokes Curse.
Last time we told you about the new Gary Coleman documentary that questions if foul play was involved in his sudden death at age 42. But he wasn't the only Different Strokes star to die young.
The dangers of early fame, the lack of support for child stars, and the predatory aspects of the entertainment industry all combined to develop the so-called Different Strokes curse. Different Strokes was an extremely popular sitcom in the 70s and 80s, but its stars suffered incredible problems in their personal lives. Gary Coleman later fought financial instability and multiple legal disputes before dying from a brain hemorrhage at 42. Dana Plato also suffered from severe substance use disorder and legal issues, and she overdosed at just 34. Additionally, Todd Bridges took multiple illegal substances before he was arrested for shooting a drug dealer in 1989. Luckily, he was acquitted of the crime and later became clean, successfully escaping the curse.
You talking to us?
Of course.
How about that, Willis? Downtown 2 minutes and already we're gentlemen.
Rick Medina commits murder.
Medina spent 3 days in jail after police say he used a sword to stab his roommate Joshua Sutter in their suburban LA home.
2000s kids may remember Rick Medina as the Red Lion Ranger from Power Rangers Wild Force. He appeared in all 40 episodes of the show before returning to the franchise 10 years later to play Decker in Power Rangers Samurai. On February 1st, 2015, shortly after Samurai had concluded, Medina killed his roommate Joshua Sutter with a medieval sword inside their California apartment. According to Medina, he killed Sutter in self-defense in the middle of an intense argument. Medina was arrested and faced life in prison, but he pled guilty to 1 count of voluntary manslaughter and was given 6 years in prison. He has since been released.
A Hollywood actor has been sentenced now for attacking his roommate with a sword and killing him. A judge in Lancaster sentenced this man, Ricardo Medina, to 6 years in prison.
The murder of Judith Barcy.
Kids, this is Mr. Sam Malone.
Hi.
Hi.
While she is known for providing the voice of Ducky in The Land Before Time, Judith Barcy spent most of her life on television, playing many bit roles throughout the 1980s. She appeared in the likes of Cheers and Growing Pains, but during this time, she was suffering horrific abuse from her father, Joseph. He reportedly had a dependence on alcohol and repeatedly threatened to murder Barcy, all while subjecting her to physical violence. Barcy eventually exhibited symptoms of severe stress, like pulling out her own eyelashes and suffering mental breakdowns. Unfortunately, the tragedy culminated on July 25, 1988, when Joseph killed both his wife and child before taking his own life.
Oh, come on, Mikey, you're gonna love your first day at school.
I wish I was old enough to go to school. Shut up, Carol. No, yes, no!
Seth Caros breakdown.
I'm not sure what's going on with Seth, and then I realized that Seth was crying because he didn't put his ice cream on the plate.
Top Chef Just Desserts was a short-lived spin-off of the main series, and one of the contestants was Seth Caros, who collapsed under the stress of the competition. Caros suffered numerous on-air meltdowns, often doubling over in tears, shaking, and angrily knocking food to the ground. At one point, he even cried and said, quote, "The Red Hots are for my mommy," which was widely mocked on the internet and late-night television. Caros' behavior grew so concerning that he was eventually removed from the competition and placed in involuntary psychiatric admission. Caro has since claimed that the experience, quote, destroyed his life, as he couldn't find culinary work and even considered changing his name to avoid association with the show.
I am on your right answer for my mother.
Paula Goodspeed on American Idol.
Inside, we were hoping some talent would shine through.
I'm Paula Goodspeed, and I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I'm a student. Oh yeah, definitely. I really think I'm a pop star.
Back in 2005, a woman named Paula Goodspeed auditioned for American Idol, and this was largely played for comedic effect on TV. However, the reality was anything but comedic. Goodspeed was actually a stalker of Judge Paula Abdul's, even legally changing her name to Paula to be more like her idol. Abdul was aware of Goodspeed, and she allegedly begged the producers not to let her audition. The producers in turn have denied this, claiming that they had no knowledge of Goodspeed being a legitimate stalker. On November 11, 2008, just 3 years after her audition, Goodspeed took her own life outside Abdul's Sherman Oaks home, her body surrounded by photos of the singer.
I'm like a really big fan, and I make life-size drawings of Paula. I've been drawing ever since I was a little kid, and my first drawing was of Paula Abdul.
The death of Gerald Bab and his physician.
38-year-old Thierry Costa killed himself in Cambodia, where the French version of the show Survivor was being recorded. It was halted last week after contestant Gerald Bab suffered a heart attack and died.
On March 22, 2013, the French version of Survivor, titled Koh Lanta, was filming on the Cambodian island of Koh Rong. One of the contestants was 25-year-old Gerald Bab. During the very first day of filming, the contestants were partaking in a vigorous tug-of-war challenge when Bab began experiencing severe cramps. He received medical attention on site and was airlifted to a local hospital, but he suffered cardiac arrest during the flight and passed away shortly after. Cambodian authorities ruled that he had died of a heart attack. Less than 2 weeks later, the show's physician, Dr. Thierry Costa, took his own life in Cambodia, citing unfair media coverage and a public smearing of his name.
Costa said his name had been tarnished in the media. A producer of the program said he and others were angry over anonymous witnesses, angry over untrue allegations, and angry against those who spread these stories without checking if they were true.
Tatushi Yanagas' on-air accident. Working for TV Miyazaki, Tatushi Yanagas was a Japanese presenter who, in June of 2008, was covering a quirky local game which saw participants pushing each other off a platform into a rice paddy. Although he hadn't planned to participate, Yanagas agreed to try the game, only to fall headfirst into the flooded field. While he lay prone and motionless, those around Yanagas treated it like a joke, believing that he was simply laying still for comedic effect. But that wasn't the case. Yanagas had actually broken his neck in the fall, and he was conscious but unable to move as he lay face first in the mud. Luckily, they quickly realized that something was seriously wrong, and Yanagas was airlifted to the hospital. David Angel dies in 9/11.
Finally, Niles. Stop babbling. Listen, Niles, you'll have to speak up. I can't hear you with that baby screaming in the background. Oh my God!
An esteemed television writer and producer, David Angel wrote for Cheers before co-creating the sitcoms Wings and Frasier. The latter was a spin-off of Cheers and was enormously successful, running for 11 seasons and winning a total of 37 Emmy Awards. On September 11th, Angel and his wife Lynn boarded American Airlines Flight 11 to return home from a vacation in Cape Cod. But at 8:46 a.m., the airplane hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center, beginning the events of 9/11. The Angels were two of the 76 innocent passengers on that fateful flight, and their names are now engraved on the North Pole of the 9/11 Memorial.
Hey, David. Remember me? I'm your grandpa.
The Discovery Channel helicopter crash.
He survived 2 tours of duty in Iraq, but a local veteran died in a tragic helicopter crash while shooting a reality TV show out in California.
The Discovery Channel was shooting a military-themed reality show on Polsa Rosa Ranch near Acton, California on February 10, 2013. A helicopter was tasked with capturing a low-altitude shot that was intended to capture a cast member dropping a backpack. but it tragically struck a valley wall and exploded, claiming all 3 lives on board. The NTSB investigated and determined the primary cause to be pilot error, with David Gibbs continuing to fly despite poor visibility caused by internal lighting and the rugged terrain. The accident was one of the deadliest on-set incidents in California since the infamous Twilight Zone tragedy of 1982, reigniting debates over safety standards on film and television productions.
Now, the FAA is investigating. They have not said what caused this crash. The Discovery Channel released a statement saying they are cooperating fully with authorities. Their thoughts and prayers go out to the families. Michael was 45 years old.
To Catch a Predator comes to a shocking end.
You could pretty much clearly assume that he didn't want to face the music on that and chose to take his own life.
To Catch a Predator was a short-lived and controversial show in which host Chris Hansen would trap and confront sex predators in a sting operation, leading to their arrest. The series earned a mixed reception, with many praising its intentions but criticizing the delivery, with some arguing it constituted entrapment. These controversies came to a head in 2006. The target was Assistant District Attorney Bill Conrad, who was fooled into exchanging pictures with a volunteer posing as a teenage boy. Just as a filming crew and police entered his home to serve a search warrant, Conrad took his own life. NBC was sued by the Conrad family, and the show was soon taken off the air.
How did you feel when you found out that he died?
It was, a difficult moment for everybody involved. You don't want to see somebody do that. I don't feel responsible for it. I sleep well at night, and did after the fact. We completely reported on it the next morning.
The Shusha Park Fire.
She warms up the family audience with her hit songs. But this week's episode gets a little too hot for TV.
It was January 6th, 2001, and 300 people were crowding a soundstage to watch a live taping of the Brazilian kids show, Shusha Park. Shortly before the show ended, a small fire began in the prop spaceship on stage. A stagehand attempted to quell the flame with a fire extinguisher, but it quickly spread out of control and engulfed the entire stage. People ran for the exits as the fire spread and consumed the soundstage, but the cameras continued to roll, capturing the nightmarish scenario for all to see. Miraculously, no one died in the fire, but 26 people were injured, a number of them seriously. The network, Rede Globo, funded their medical expenses, and all made a full recovery.
And extinguishers are no use. The inferno spreads and the workers scramble to get everyone out safely.
Janette Mccertie. In 2022, former child star Janette Mccertie of iCarly and Sam and Cat fame released a memoir with the somewhat blunt title of I'm Glad My Mom Died.
Stardom was never your dream. Whose dream was it?
My mom's. I think she wanted me to have a better life than she had, but I also think her approach was very unhealthy and informed by her own lack of self-work. And she lived vicariously through me.
It's a dark statement, but the book is exceptionally well written. This account details what being part of the TV industry at a young age was like after being pushed into it by her abusive and controlling mother. The retired actor reveals the lengths her mother would go to control her life, down to what she was allowed to eat.
Yeah, I think my mom wanted to keep me as controllable as possible. I think she really wanted to have her influence on me, and me growing up was a threat to that.
She also alludes to an unnamed creator who made her time in the industry miserable, including being pressured to drink and being photographed in a bikini, both while underage. The Duggar Family. 19 Kids and Counting, a reality show that had the number of kids in its title increase twice while it was on the air, came to a halt in 2015 when a 2006 police report was made public.
We went through one of the most darkest times that our family's ever gone through.
The report concerned the Duggars' eldest son, Josh Duggar, who the report stated inappropriately touched 5 girls, including 4 of his sisters, on multiple occasions as a teenager. 6 years after the show ended, he was arrested and subsequently convicted after being found to be in possession of explicit material featuring minors.
Regardless of their status in society, regardless of their wealth, regardless of their fame, this case shows that no person is above the law.
The downfall of Ellen DeGeneres. For years, groundbreaking comedian Ellen DeGeneres was a beloved talk show host and gay icon. There had been whispers about DeGeneres, but they were mostly hushed until more people began to question her in the late 2010s.
This summer, there were allegations of a toxic work environment at our show, and then there was an investigation. I learned that things happened here that never should have happened. I take that very seriously, and I want to say I am so sorry to the people who were affected.
In 2019, she faced criticism for being friends with former American President George W. Bush and giving a cushy interview to fellow comedian Kevin Hart while he faced controversy. And of course, who could forget the awkward but iconic Dakota Johnson interview? DeGeneres claimed she wasn't invited to Johnson's birthday party, but the actor called her out.
This time you invited me?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How do you know? I don't think so.
Ask everybody. Ask Jonathan, your producer. Who said you were?
I was invited?
Right.
Why didn't I go?
I don't know.
By far, her biggest controversy came when investigations unveiled an alleged toxic work environment on her show, including racism, sexual misconduct, and an air of intimidation and fear. Philip Schofield scandal. British daytime TV anchor Philip Schofield stepped down from hosting duties on his popular morning show This Morning after admitting to an affair with a young co-worker.
And then, in my dressing room one day, something happened.
The matter got so much attention in the British media that it was even discussed in Parliament. It was the second media blitz for Schofield within the decade, after he had shocked viewers by announcing that he is a gay man after 27 years of marriage and 2 daughters with his wife. After reports of tension between Schofield and his co-host Holly Willoughby that coincided with a drop in ratings, he initially resigned with no mention of an inappropriate relationship. But he soon released another statement describing what he called a, quote, unwise but not illegal relationship.
Why is all this coming out now, Philip? What was the catalyst? What changed?
It got too big. The lie got too big for both of us. It just got enormous.
Drake Bell. As a teenager, Drake Bell delighted audiences on Nickelodeon classics like The Amanda Show and Drake and Josh.
Yeah, man! Awesome!
In the 2024 documentary Quiet on Set, Bell shared an experience that severely darkened his days as a child star. The actor said dialogue coach Brian Peck sexually assaulted him on multiple occasions during his years at Nickelodeon. Years later, at the age of 31, Bell himself was found to have exchanged inappropriate social media messages with a minor.
I accept this plea because my conduct was wrong. I'm sorry that the victim was harmed in any way, but that was obviously not my intention.
The silver lining in all of this is that following his interview for the documentary, he was able to check himself into rehab. Justin Roiland. As far as anyone knew at the time, 2020 was a normal-ish time within Rick and Morty, for better or worse.
Dad, there's a way we do this now.
Morty, would you please accompany me to Forbodulon Prime for death crystals?
Well, thank you for asking. Yes, I will do that.
3 years later, it would finally be made public that in that same year, the show's co-creator, Justin Roiland, was charged with domestic battery and false imprisonment. When this broke, a cavalcade of abuse allegations against Roiland were made, including some involving minors. Also revealed in 2023 was a sexual harassment claim from a female Rick and Morty writer that had been investigated by Adult Swim in 2020. While he was not let go by the network then, it was a no-brainer for them to part ways with him amid this fiasco, even though he also voiced Rick and Morty's titular duo.
Betrayal! Betrayal on all sides!
Don't overreact, Morty.
The firing of Roseanne Barr.
Roseanne's history with these sort of remarks in regards to African Americans had already been documented, and yet, the network decided to reboot her show anyway.
Barr was the creator and star of Roseanne, which was one of the most popular sitcoms of the late 80s and 90s. It was so popular, in fact, that it was brought back for a very brief revival in 2018. We say brief because the show lasted just 2 months before Barr was fired. On May 29th, Barr made a racist comment about Valerie Jarrett on Twitter, who had just finished her role as senior advisor to the president. The tweet garnered immediate controversy, and ABC canceled Roseanne that very same day.
Huge in the ratings, making a lot of money for ABC. For them to so swiftly cancel this show, they're going to take a hit.
Owen Hart. In one of the darkest moments in television and professional wrestling, tragedy struck during the World Wrestling Federation's Over the Edge pay-per-view event in 1999.
Last night in Kansas City, Missouri, with more than 18,000 people in the arena and a large worldwide pay-per-view audience, Hart was getting ready to make a spectacular entrance, similar to one he'd made before.
While participating in the event, wrestler Owen Hart was meant to be lowered into the ring for a planned match against The Godfather. However, following an accidental release from his safety harness, Hart fell 78 feet during the stunt to his death. While the incident itself was not televised, announcer Jim Ross informed the audience of what had happened, having to make clear that this was in no way part of the show.
Shocked ring announcers tried to tell the home audience what they were seeing was no act.
And something went terribly wrong here. Certainly, Owen Hart, Blue Blazer, very serious situation here at this point in time.
The murder of Rebecca Schaefer. On the CBS sitcom My Sister Sam, Rebecca Schaefer was a fan favorite.
Brandon asked you out on a date? Yeah. Sam, that's hysterical. It is? I can't believe you actually thought he asked you out.
While the show only lasted a couple of seasons, Schaefer was still due to make a big break, with roles in movies like Scenes from the Class Struggle in Beverly Hills. In the summer of 1989, she was awaiting her biggest opportunity yet, with an audition later that day for the role of Mary, Michael Corleone's daughter in The Godfather Part 3. When she answered the door expecting a script, she was shot dead by an obsessed stalker.
Mr. Barlow stated, "I forgot to give you something," withdrew a handgun from his waistband and shot her once in the chest.
Something good came from the tragedy at least, as it set in motion the first laws in California that criminalized stalking. The Jenny Jones Show murder. In a 1996 episode of the daytime talk program The Jenny Jones Show, Scott Amador, an out and proud gay man, admitted to a forbidden crush on Jonathan Schmitz, his straight friend.
Did you think Donna had the crush on you?
Did I? No, we're good friends.
Well, guess what? It's Scott that has the crush on you.
You lied to me.
On camera, Schmitz is shocked but appears to laugh anyway. When he wasn't on TV, he didn't think there was anything funny about the confession, shooting his so-called best friend to death just 3 days after it was filmed. In court, Schmitz would go on to unsuccessfully utilize the gay panic defense, ultimately being convicted of second-degree murder.
Members of the jury, have you reached your verdict? If so, let your foreperson please rise.
Our verdict as to the charge of first-degree premeditated murder is guilty of the lesser offense of second-degree murder.
The abuse of David Yoast.
Triceratops!
90s kids have fond memories of Power Rangers, but making the show was not as fun as watching it. At least not for Blue Ranger David Yoast. A gay man, Yoast was reportedly harassed by producers and crew members for his sexual orientation. The harassment got so bad that Yoast harbored thoughts of self-harm and eventually quit the show altogether. After leaving the program, Yoast attempted to alter his sexuality through conversion therapy and later suffered a nervous breakdown. After spending some time in a psychiatric institution, Yoast accepted his sexuality and has since returned to the Power Rangers community.
She's a kid. She's a kid, Billy. She doesn't need to know that we're Power Rangers.
She needs to know that Rita Repulsa killed her mom.
The franchise has also not been kind to Allison McGinnis, the pink Lightspeed Ranger who broke her leg while training for a dangerous stunt. The death of John Eric Hex.
I was in Special Forces Fort Benning, Georgia. They came in and looked us over. About as uncomfortable as what you're doing here.
Between September 1984 and April 1985, CBS aired an action thriller called Cover Up. It starred John Eric Hex as Mac Harper, a former Green Beret who's hired by a fashion photographer to find her husband's killers. On October 12, 1984, Hex was waiting on set when he got bored and began playing with a gun loaded with blanks. He unloaded all but one blank and played a round of Russian roulette. Not knowing how dangerous this was, he pulled the trigger and fired a blank straight into his temple. The shot fractured his skull and caused an enormous brain hemorrhage. Unfortunately, the damage was too great to repair, and Hexum died 6 days later. Clayne Crawford's unfortunate behavior.
I mean, that was the biggest move I think I've ever seen. You're the biggest crybaby I've ever met in my life.
In 2016, Fox began airing a Lethal Weapon show based on the iconic film series. Roger Murtaugh and Martin Riggs were back after nearly 20 years, and they were respectively played by Damon Wayans and Clayne Crawford. Unfortunately, the latter caused a slew of problems on set. Crawford was reportedly known for his angry outbursts, which made those around him uncomfortable. One instance even resulted in studio-appointed therapy and Crawford giving up some of his paycheck to the afflicted party. It was all too much for the cast and crew, many of whom voiced their displeasure at working with Crawford, and he was fired at the end of the second season.
Murtaugh is without a Riggs. A Lethal Weapon star leaves the action series after multiple accounts of bad behavior on set, including endangering his fellow castmates.
The fall of Louis C.K.
I go to my daughter's school to volunteer sometimes. My daughter goes to a public school. And I volunteer not because I'm a good person, but because you have to, because nobody works there.
While he's primarily known for his stand-up, Louis C.K. also found great success on television, especially with his surreal Emmy-winning Louie. The series entered an indefinite hiatus in 2015 at the end of its 5th season, with C.K. planning on returning to it at some point in the future. But that changed when the comedian was accused of inappropriate sensual behavior. The story began that very year when fellow comedian Roseanne Barr shared some nasty rumors about CK's secret behavior. These rumors were confirmed 2 years later in the midst of the Me Too movement, and CK admitted his transgressions. As a result, FX cut all ties with their star, and Louis was canceled.
News this morning about the comedian Louis C.K., who has come out to say that the accusations against him are in fact true.
The $1.98 Beauty Show.
And now a lovely young lady who is truly one of television's brightest stars from the show One Day at a Time, Mackenzie Phillips.
The 70s were certainly a different time, one in which producers thought laughing at people would make for appropriate television. The $1.98 Beauty Show was a parody of beauty pageants, with contestants demeaning themselves for less than $2 in prize money and a bouquet of rotten vegetables. Much of the humor came at the expense of the contestants, with host Rip Taylor, announcer Johnny Jacobs, and a group of celebrity panelists often ripping into their physical appearance. When an overweight woman is comedically called a, quote, tow truck, you know things have gone too far. The show was viciously criticized for being mean-spirited and canceled after 2 seasons.
Molly measures 35, 25, 35. Molly says that she has a tremendous love for horses, which is probably the reason why she's been divorced twice.
The allegations against Dan Schneider.
Well, better get going. Oh, and be careful.
Why be careful?
You may not know his name, but you certainly know his TV shows. A successful producer, Schneider created some of the most iconic Nickelodeon programs of all time, including Drake and Josh, iCarly, and Zoe 101. If you can name a Nickelodeon sitcom, chances are that Schneider made it. But this prosperous relationship came to an end in 2018 when Nickelodeon fired Schneider for inappropriate behavior. This included a long history of temper issues, angry outbursts, and an alleged foot fetish that saw him posting photos of his actress's feet. New allegations emerged a few years later, claiming that Schneider would ask for massages and was prone to gender discrimination.
I see the problem. Oh, do ya?
A workplace hazard.
Bryce Dion was killed in August 2014. He had followed Omaha police into a Wendy's where a robbery was taking place.
Cops has been a TV staple since 1989 and has aired well over 1,000 episodes in that time. The premise is simple. A small camera crew follows everyday cops and films them doing their job. Usually, the show consists of minor things like public drunkenness and drug arrests, but sometimes things get tragically heated. On the night of August 26, 2014, a crew operating in Omaha responded to a robbery at a local Wendy's. The police opened fire on the suspect and accidentally hit the cop's audio technician, Bryce Dion. Dion was hit by a stray bullet and rushed to the hospital, but he quickly died of his injuries. Dion's brother later sued the city of Omaha, but his case was dismissed.
An 11-page lawsuit claims negligence on the part of the Omaha Police Department and asked the city for payment to the heartbroken family of Dion.
Jimmy Savile. British television personality and DJ Jimmy Savile was adored for years as the host of iconic BBC programs Top of the Pops and Jim'll Fix It.
Last week we fixed it for Katie to meet Doctor Who, and she sent me a very nice letter to Jimmy. Thanks for fixing it for me.
Posthumously, several minor abuse allegations spanning decades were made against Savile. It called into question for many how and why he was never caught while he was still living. The BBC has also been criticized for turning a blind eye to a monster who one survivor called, quote, the most disgusting human being I've ever met. To this day, the total number of Savile's victims is unknown.
The silence has been shattered, and more of those who were scared or felt they wouldn't be believed are coming forward. Karen Ward had told BBC's Newsnight last year of what she saw as a 14-year-old at the BBC, but to her anger, they didn't run it.
The mysterious death of George Reeves. Before Christopher Reeve donned the red and blue of the Man of Steel, George Reeves played him on the syndicated Adventures of Superman. The first Superman television show, it ran for 6 seasons between 1952 and 1958. The next year, Reeves died of a mysterious gunshot wound. Reeves had supposedly taken his own life inside his LA home, the result of depression and feelings of failure. But this finding has long been contested and debated. Some have theorized that famed Hollywood fixer Eddie Mannix was involved. Others point to Reeves' fiancée, Leonore Lemon. We'll likely never know what truly happened, and for now, we just have to accept the potentially bogus self-harm theory.
And now, another exciting episode in the Adventures of Superman.
The canceled makeover of Delise Williams.
Tonight, a My Fair Lady makeover. More extreme than any done before.
I would just love to be able to look at myself and see a whole different person.
Extreme Makeover was an ABC program that saw ordinary people undergoing plastic surgery to attain their dream appearance. Needless to say, the show garnered much controversy in its day, and it even resulted in a death. A Texas woman named Delise Williams was slated to appear on the show. Producers arrived at her hometown and goaded family members into saying awful things about Williams' physical appearance. She was in the next room listening in for reaction shots. But Williams' spot was canceled at the last minute owing to scheduling conflicts, and she had already heard the nasty things that were said about her. Williams' sister, Kelly McGee, was so distraught and guilt-ridden over what she had said that she took her own life. The quiz show scandals.
Dan Enright came to see me in my kitchen, and he said, how'd you like to make $25,000? And I said, who wouldn't?
It was the late 1950s, and television was still a very young industry. Enter the producers of various game shows who wished to increase ratings and make stars out of their players by fixing the games. These are now called the quiz show scandals, and they threatened the very integrity of television. While these scandals rocked numerous shows, the most infamous story involved 21 and contestants Herb Stempel and Charles Van Doren. Reigning champion Stempel was instructed to throw the game so Van Doren could win, and he went on to enjoy his own famous winning streak. Both would later testify in front of Congress, which in turn amended the law to prevent future cheating on TV game shows.
See, I don't think an adult of your intelligence ought to be commended for simply, at long last, telling the truth.
The Poor Horses.
Guess I still know a peach when I see one.
The HBO horse racing drama Luck had a slew of talent behind it. It was created by David Milch of Deadwood fame, and the pilot was directed by Michael Mann, and it starred Dustin Hoffman in the lead role. Yet it only lasted 9 episodes. The show was actually picked up for a second season, but it was then revealed that the show's racehorses had suffered numerous tragedies. 2 horses had died during production of the first season as they suffered fractures during runs and were subsequently euthanized. A third horse died while filming the second season, prompting HBO to suspend production and launch an investigation. The show was then canceled, with HBO claiming that they didn't want any more accidents to occur.
Good girl.
No girls allowed.
Amy Allen, I'm Hannibal Smith. I understand you want to hire the A-Team.
One of the most popular shows of the 80s, the A-Team followed the adventures of 4 mercenaries working in Los Angeles. Nothing screams 80s machismo quite like it, and perhaps unsurprisingly, women had a very difficult time working on the show. The first 2 seasons starred Melinda Kulia as reporter Amy Allen. Kulia often voiced her displeasure at playing second fiddle to the A-Team and asked for more to do, and she was fired as a result. In came Marla Heasley to replace her as Tanya Baker, but she was quickly dropped also and was never even added to the opening credits. Most people lay blame at the feet of George Peppard, who reportedly insisted that no female be given a lead role.
Now, if you wanted somebody with good manners, you should have hired an English butler.
Tommy Cooper dies on live TV.
I shall now produce from empty cloth 4 live ducks. Oh! I got away again.
A popular English magician, Tommy Cooper saw great success throughout the 60s and 70s by appearing on numerous television programs. Unfortunately, his health began to suffer in the late 70s, owing to excessive drinking and cigar smoking, resulting in tragedy on the night of April 15, 1984. Cooper was performing on a variety show called Live from Her Majesty's when he suddenly collapsed. The audience laughed at the sight of Cooper falling over, believing that it was part of his comedic act. In reality, Cooper had suffered a fatal heart attack. The show continued as people tried to revive Cooper off stage, and he was eventually taken to Westminster Hospital. Unfortunately, he was declared DOA, having died in front of 12 million viewers.
And you put your hand inside the bag, and you bring the egg out with thunderous applause.
The Glee curse.
And I know that there have been a lot of memorials for him, but I had this made, and I was hoping that we could hang it in here.
Despite being one of the most popular shows of the 2010s, Glee has left behind a questionable legacy. That has nothing to do with the show itself, but the actors who were at the helm. Many dark and disturbing things have either befallen the young cast or been perpetrated by them. Regarding the latter, Mark Salling pleaded guilty to some horrific crimes in 2017 and later took his own life. It has also been reported that Blake Jenner was physically abusive towards his then-wife, Melissa Benoist, even giving her a permanent eye injury. But horrible things have also happened to the actors. Corey Monteith died in 2013 from a drug overdose, and Naya Rivera later drowned while boating with her son in California's Lake Piru. The demise of Phil Hartman.
Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such films as The Greatest Story Ever Hooled and They Came to Burgle Carnegie Hall.
A television legend, Phil Hartman drew widespread acclaim for his work on shows like Saturday Night Live, News Radio, and The Simpsons. But throughout the 1990s, Hartman was in a strained relationship with Brim Omdahl, his third wife. Known for heavy substance use, Omdahl would often behave erratically, sometimes even violently. While Hartman was advised to leave Omdahl, he never did so. Tragically, in the early morning hours of May 28, 1998, an inebriated Omdahl shot and killed Hartman while he slept. After confessing to numerous people and drawing police attention, Omdahl locked herself in the bedroom and took her own life as well. The unsolved murder of Bob Crane.
We're running a little bit behind times. Pass the word around. Football game is off.
Oh, no, Colonel. I was supposed to play fullback today.
Fullback? Now I know we've got to get the game canceled.
After running a successful radio show, Bob Crane moved on to acting and found work on Hogan's Heroes. The popular sitcom ran for 6 seasons, with Crane playing the titular Colonel Robert Hogan. But when the show came to an end in 1971, Crane struggled to find work and began doing dinner theater. By 1978, Crane was living in Arizona and doing a show called Beginner's Luck. On June 29th, Crane missed a meeting, prompting one of his co-stars to visit him at his apartment. There, they found Crane's dead body, which had been both bludgeoned and strangled. blame fell on his friend, John Henry Carpenter, but he was acquitted in court. While some continue to point the finger at Carpenter, the murder is officially unsolved.
Hey, you need a ride tomorrow to the airport? I got a luncheon at noon. John, don't bother.
An unfortunate guest.
And I really didn't want to get in the car, but I was raised to respect my elders.
You never know what types of people will show up on game shows. The dating game typically saw a woman asking questions to 3 men sitting behind a partition. She would then pick the man she liked the most, meet him face to face, and then go on a date. In 1978, a photographer named Rodney Alcala appeared on the show and won a date with Cheryl Bradshaw. However, she found him creepy and refused the date, and for good reason. By this time, Alcala had killed at least 4 women and served years in prison for sexual assault. He would kill even more after his appearance on the dating game, bringing his official body count to 8. Some believe it could be as high as 130.
I'm called the Banana, and I look really good.
Bill Cosby.
Did you ever think that this day was going to come? I've dreamt of this day for 32 years.
It's amazing how fast a reputation can plummet. For many years, Bill Cosby was regarded as America's dad, winning over millions with his work on The Cosby Show. But allegations of sexual abuse followed Cosby throughout most of his career, with the earliest instance dating back to the mid-60s. These allegations continued into the 21st century, with the most legally formidable coming in 2004. It was then that a woman named Andrea Constand accused Cosby of sexual abuse. While most of Cosby's crimes fell outside the statutes of limitations, Constand's did not, and it was her case that briefly sent the comedian to prison. It is now believed that Cosby had been assaulting women for decades, even while serving as America's dad. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. The world loses Steve Irwin.
Have a look at this. What a beautiful lizard. You're all right, mate.
A popular wildlife expert and conservationist, Steve Irwin found unbelievable success on television as the crocodile hunter. He hosted the TV series of the same name, but also appeared on other programs, including the nature documentary Ocean's Deadliest. It was while filming this show that Irwin met his tragic demise. The host approached a short-tailed stingray, which proceeded to sting him in the chest. Unfortunately, the barb got him directly in the heart, and Irwin quickly bled to death. The accident was captured on video, but the footage has never been released. Irwin's memorial service was held 2 weeks after his death and was watched by 300 million people around the world.
Today's memorial service is a celebration of a man who's touched our lives and changed the world.
What do you make of these scenarios? Let us know in the comments.
You know, I'm like not someone who is supposed to get this.